be standing for 4 minutes.
Tim, Allen, are we almost on?
Yep, go ahead.
Good? Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take this moment to introduce and welcome our board representative, student representative to the Board of Education. Glad to see him. He was here last year, but now he's officially sitting with the Board of Education, Mr. Jack Morris. Welcome, Jack.
All right, Jack.
He's going places. I see him running for president someday, I can tell you that. All right, can I get a motion for the acceptance of the minutes for the September 6, 2022 meeting?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Public forum for this evening?
I don't think so. Why? Oh. Get up there and say this is going on, this is going on.
No one for public forum for this evening. We will move on to our presentations for this evening. We have our principal, Nicole I, and Rebecca Mahar going to do social emotional learning practices. Welcome.
Good evening. Nicole I, the elementary principal, and Rebecca Marr, the literacy and instructional supervisor. We're here to present on social emotional learning at the elementary building. We're going to kind of step back from last year and kind of move forward to how it's working this year and what's going on in the elementary building. At the elementary level, after the return of the students from the pandemic, we noticed there was really significant gaps with their social emotional skills and the ability to understand their emotions, to communicate with their classmates, to communicate as a community in the classrooms, and really just to, at the end of the day, get along with their peers. So we understood a need for a coordinated response, and what were we going to do as a building to really, highlight and pinpoint these lack of skills to succeed for our students. So we're fortunate to have an amazing core staff, and those are our counselors, our social workers, our school psychologists, and you did it already, sorry, thank you, and our behavior analysts at the elementary building. And what we did to support the students was to push into every K-6 elementary classroom to support social emotional skills and to teach them lessons. With that, the presentation today is going to be about the initiative that we implemented during the 21-22 school year and how we plan to move forward with our social emotional learning at the elementary building.
So the first question is, why did we need to provide these lessons for our students? The data from our Panorama survey in 2021 and 2022 was pretty consistent. And it showed us that only 60% of our students feel a sense of belonging at school, only 54% feel safe, and only 50% feel they have the grit to succeed. And we know this is a problem we have to address, because in order for our students to be ready to learn, they need to feel safe and to feel connected to their teachers and to one another. And we also know that for their well-being in general, it's important that we provide that safe space for them here in school.
Can we ask questions as you go along, or would you prefer them at the end?
I think at the end would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. This data from the Panorama survey impacted our choice of DSIP priorities. And so one of our priorities in the DSIP this year is to commit to making every child feel safe, respected, supported, and to have a true sense of belonging. And so these SEL push-in lessons that we're doing in every classroom are part of our DSIP plan to improve sense of belonging. So the skills follow a sequence recommended, the skills that we're teaching in the classroom follow a sequence recommended by an organization called the Collaborative for Academic and Social and Emotional Learning, that's CASEL. So CASEL is an organization that makes recommendations nationwide for research-based social and emotional learning instruction. And they recommend following that sequence from self-awareness to social awareness. And the reason that sequence works is because it actually follows the structure of the human brain. So at the bottom of our brain are our most basic emotions, and that's, in order to operate in the world, we need to be able to understand those emotions. That is self-awareness. Then when we have a big emotion, we need to know how to regulate ourselves and become calm. That's self-management. And once we have control over ourselves, we can start making plans and healthy decisions. Then we can have relationships with one another, and then we can operate in the social world. And so as we move through this sequence, the skills become more complex, and they involve more complex structures of the brain. And in order for students to learn them, they have to be taught them explicitly, and they have to be given a chance to practice them, because the brain learns through patterned and repetitive experiences. So these lessons that happen in every K to 6 room give students that direct instruction and the specific skills they need, and then an opportunity to practice them until they become perfected.
So if we look back at the 2021 school year, we're just going to kind of go back a little bit to ask who did these push-in SEL lessons, when did they happen, where did they happen? So our two counselors, Andrea Hemstreet and Allison Chapin, and our two social workers, Kathy Westbrook and Jasmine Cruz, did the majority of all the push-in lessons with our students K-6. Once in a while, if one of them were not around or busy doing, our school psychologists and our behavior specialists also pushed in to help support these lessons throughout the entire school year. The lessons were push-in, social emotional lessons. They happened in every K-6 classroom, and self-contained was once a week, and our general education was twice a month happening. Just some feedback that we got for the 2021 school year based on some student feedback, some teacher feedback. I'm not going to read all of it, but I just wanted to just highlight a couple things here. From one of our counselors, students learned that they were not alone in their personal struggles. Again, how I mentioned in the beginning, when our students came back from the pandemic, there was really a lack of the self-awareness and belonging, and to bring them all back just to kind of reiterate to them that they weren't alone was really important, that everybody was feeling a lack of skills and a belonging of not being in school. And I just want to highlight what one of the teachers said. I was lucky enough to have the counseling team come into my classroom. The students were always very excited to see them come in. As a teacher, I also learned from their lessons and was able to continue the students' learning throughout the week and reinforce those skills. And I highlighted that because not only were the students learning, but the teachers were also learning how to maybe incorporate these skills that they might not have known prior. And I don't think any of us really knew what to expect when our students came back from the pandemic. And I think with us all working together, learning how to support these students was wonderful. And the teachers really learned from the counselors, and the counselors learned from the students, and the students, and all along it was just like a really open dynamic triangle.
So one of the wonderful things about this program last year was that everybody loved it. I mean, roundly. It's rare to have an initiative that is so beloved by every stakeholder in the community. This was. And so what we want to do this year is just build some extra infrastructure and support around it so that we can magnify the work and take it to the next level. And so we're going to operate as a whole school building according to these monthly themes that follow the skills outlined by Castle. And we're going to provide a little bit more backup and support, repetition, common language around these monthly themes to elevate what the counseling team is doing. So September's theme of the month was team building. October is emotions. November is caring for myself. December is being a good friend. January is managing conflict. February is working smarter. Those are those executive functioning skills, planning and decision making. March is my strengths, April is our strengths, and May to June is going to focus on volunteer projects for our community.
I just want to highlight too one other thing. The pictures throughout this presentation all were taken from the counselors and the students and the teachers when they pushed in. So you'll see that they did a variety of all kinds of different lessons. They ranged from K to 6, so they didn't do the same lesson as kindergarten and as 6th grade, but they touched on the same skill of the week or the skill of the month moving forward for this year. So looking ahead for the 2022-23 school year, we want to have more participation with the administration, the teachers, and the staff for us to even get involved with some of the lessons. It's really important for that. More communication. We also, for more participation, we want to focus on what can we help with our staff as the admin team too. What can we give back for the staff, social, emotional also. Morning announcements. I do a weekly Buzz newsletter. We're highlighting some of the theme of the month in there and how teachers can actually use that within their classrooms. Faculty meetings. We have come together as an administrative team to take 10 or 15 minutes of every faculty meeting to do some kind of social emotional activity that the staff, teachers can bring back into their classrooms to use, so we're modeling for them. And just hands-on practice that they can use. And to move forward, we'd really like to incorporate and get some more data. So we're going to use the Panorama survey, we're going to use the relationships to try to build the grit and self-belonging for this school year. So I can open it up to any questions.
Thank you. I'd like to just go back to the data for a moment, if I may. You made some, if we can go back to that slide, that would be great. So I see some numbers that are, in my mind, pretty high there. 60% students feel a sense of belonging at school, which is good. Well, not really. I mean, that number is 60% should be higher. Only 54% feel safe. So let's talk about only 54% feel safe. What did they understand? What was the question relative to that? Was it they don't feel safe because they think there's going to be an active shooter? They don't feel safe because of COVID? They don't feel safe? Was there reasons behind that question, or was there more information behind that question, or was it just a general question?
It was general.
It was general, so it wasn't explained to them in any sense just whether or not you feel safe. We couldn't get an understanding of why they answered that they didn't feel safe.
Correct, and also don't forget, this is only the 3rd through 6th grade students that also took the Panorama survey. It wasn't a K6, it was geared towards the older students. But no, it was a Panorama, so they chose the survey questions for us, and it was not specific, like you said. It wasn't COVID or, they were afraid of fear of things.
So factors such as a school shooting happening in another state at the time they took the test could have skewed those numbers, correct?
Absolutely.
So we don't know. So those numbers, I mean, as we do any research on any statistical, when we do statistics, numbers can be skewed. It doesn't necessarily dictate exactly why they didn't feel safe. So there's more. I think that when we take these kind of instruments and these surveys, not surveys, but these questionnaires, they need to be more specific. Especially that's a big question, and we don't want people to think like 54% feel safe, so that means 46% of our students don't feel safe. We don't know why. We don't have an explanation. We need to explore. When we get data back like that, we need to take that and maybe from a staff standpoint, administer our own questionnaire that explains, help us understand why you don't feel safe. I think that we need to develop our own questionnaires based on the data that we get back from these panoramic instruments.
Yeah, I just want to add that the Panorama survey, school safety is the topic, and there were 5 questions under that topic. The topic that really brought down the percentage, the question was, how often are people disrespectful to others at your school? So that specific question had a very low percentage of favorable responses. The other question had to do with bullying, 62%. There was favorable responses for 62% that students can get support when they feel bullying is happening. 73% favorable responses about online bullying, so not a significant issue. How often do you worry about violence? 52% favorable. And how often do students get into physical fights? 56% favorable. So the one that really brought us down, it was only 26% favorable, that students felt that people were disrespectful often to one another, and that fell under the category of school safety.
And I think going along with this, that's all the more reason after coming back from a pandemic is that these kids really needed these social skills to, reignite being in school again. I think that they lost some of that being home, and it was just rebuilding these things on how to get along with each other.
That's correct. Danny?
Was this the survey that was emailed to parents,
Correct.
or the children took this to the
Uh,
parents?
both, yes.
as well as staff.
Yeah.
So the sample was drawn from all three?
No, this is just students,
Just students?
right? But to go back to Mr. McQuillan's question, this is the same survey the staff and the parents received via email
So
too.
they were all the same.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
And did they have a foundation for knowing like terms like grit? One of the board members had brought that up
Yep.
earlier.
So we also had that question. I think I know I'm looking at Kelly because when we did go through the panorama survey, I had those same, what third grader knows the word grit. So I think moving forward, those are some vocabulary terms also we'll talk about in the classroom so that they do understand what they're answering, but I don't disagree with you with that.
Yeah, I'm thinking grit. I'm thinking food like grits. I'm ready to dig in. But
One of the things that we appreciate about data is that it's a conversation starter, right? So this is a survey that provided us with a set of baseline data points that then prompt us to ask other questions to our student. What does safety mean to you? What does grit mean? Do they understand what grit means? The process of asking those questions is an appropriate response to this data that will encourage us to dig deeper with other data tools.
that's good because that's important to understand the why. Why the students don't feel a certain way, and do they understand what they're answering as they go forward? Because that leads to your having this as a starting point in conversations to better unearth what's really going on with them, how they feel. Instead of
Absolutely.
coming out with a statistic like 54%, which is true. I mean, you guys have that as a true fact, but as you know, in statistics, and certainly in the book about Much Ado About Nothing by Nathaniel Hawthorne, he talked about the fallacy of the okay name. So 54% don't feel safe. Well, I must not feel safe. So we have to understand the why.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's a critical part of the process. First, we look at the data point, and then we ask the follow-up questions, and that is the critical one. Why don't they? We need to answer that as a building and as a district.
Yep. Questions, John?
Can I just, and to jump in on that, we have also, as the admin team, talked about giving our own survey at the end with more basic questions that would give us a little bit better feedback on how we can serve them moving forward for our teachers, our faculty, our staff, and the students, just more kind of on their level, so we can get down to why don't you feel safe, or why don't you have a sense of belonging, and do you know what the word grit means, and all those kind of things. So we have discussed all of that.
Good. Thank you. John?
Thank you. Ladies, thank you for this. When I first heard about social emotional learning, I had a lot of questions. And I go back a ways. So we were supposed to be professionals and do our jobs and not worry about certain things. And there were up days and there were down days, and you had to deal with them. And I understand, having gone through some of the things with social emotional learning, for example, the pandemic, and as the president of the board mentioned, events in schools around our country that were not particularly popular. And I saw some of the events that our deputy superintendent did last year. I came back from a conference and I came on campus, and teacher after teacher stopped me and told me what an unbelievable superintendent's conference day we had. And I thought I was in the wrong place, because after 41 years in education, I'd never found one that was scintillating. But the surroundings of the social emotional learning that you added into that made people think, you know what, somebody understands that once in a while this wears me out. And I do have a concern in any circumstance with only 54% of our students saying that they feel safe. Because when I walk through the buildings, these kids are here having fun, and maybe we're bouncing back from that. I go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs in 1943, not alive then, but what I studied when I was going through. And one of the biggest things in there is the safety that kids have to feel before they can learn and move on. And are we going to be addressing that in this whole thing as we move forward? Because I think that's really the key. Because I certainly want every teacher, faculty, staff, and kid to come into our building and say, hey, this is a safe place, and I'm going to learn.
Yeah, Mr. Burns, I could not agree with you more with that, and I think that with the administrative team, when we talked to the kids about the assemblies and the code of conduct, and I keep looking at this, so I'm going to just introduce Mrs. Meredith Smith, and Mrs. Heather Heidelberg, the two assistant principals at the elementary building, we addressed all the students, and that was a big focus of being safe and why we're here at school and what we were going to do to make them feel safe. So I don't disagree with that.
And one other question, if I may, Mr. President. Last year, we talked about coming back from the pandemic, about discipline and some of the behavioral issues that kids came, and we all realized that was it. And I give credit to our superintendent who said, we're going to bring in more social workers, more psychologists, more, we pushed for APs and things like that. How has the discipline been in the elementary school this year?
It's new. We're still in the beginning of the year, so I don't
Right.
want to speak too much. But, it's a constant, I think, with us rotating through the hallways and being at lunches for our presence to really be out and about. And the more out and about we are, the more the kids see us and the better the discipline will be. It's still new and still beginning of the year, but I'm really hoping that we took a step in the right direction. Having more people on hand, there is no doubt that it has been fantastic.
Every beginning of the year is the honeymoon, I get that, but it's
Yeah.
certainly better than last year.
It's better than last year.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just would like to follow up on that excellent question and talking about school discipline and safety, right? When our students were at sea with the pandemic, they were experiencing trauma, right? And trauma can put you in a state of fight, flight, or freeze that makes you act out, right? That is, our premise is that was causing or elevating our discipline issues, right? So the connection between that and this work is that we are explicitly teaching children what to do when you are triggered into a trauma response. How do you bring yourself back to a place of calm where you can choose a peaceful and positive decision instead of acting out? Our expectation and our hope is that these lessons will reduce our discipline issues this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, ladies, thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you so
nice
much. Thank you.
presentation. I got to make a correction. It's Jack Henry. I'm always thinking of his relatives that are with me, but it's Jack Henry. So welcome, Jack Henry. I'll get your name right this time.
Thank you.
Got a little feedback here. All right, we'll move on to reports and information and correspondence. For myself, I'd like to say we had a nice ceremony today at we had a visit from the Ulster County Chiefs of Police Association today. We have a student named Easton Avery who has been doing many wonderful things community-wide. He works, he makes money, and he takes that money instead of doing what a normal kid does. Some feedback here. I don't know where, it might be the microphone's on up there. I feel like a rat in a laboratory experiment. All right, seems like we're back to normal. So, as I was saying about Easton Avery, like any normal kid his age, they take the money and want to go buy the newest iPhone or PlayStation 5. But not Easton. He is continuously, for the last several years, gone around and taken his money and donating it to charities. He personally came to the police station about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and donated his earnings of $500 that he made to Toys for Tots, and he's also donated to several other charities. With that in mind, I recommended him to the Chiefs Association a year and a half ago to receive the Meritorious Police Service Award for community service. That's bestowed upon a citizen in Ulster County for acts of community service and generosity. I was notified last month that Easton had received it, and they came down today. Captain Mario Restivo from the New York State Police, Kyle Berardi, the President and Chief of Town of Ulster, Rob Lucchese from the Town of New Paltz, Chief of Town of New Paltz, and several of members from the Ellenville Police Department came here and presented his family, his mom and dad, and Easton himself, along with his math class, got to see. He got brought up and was presented with a plaque from the Ulster County Chiefs of Police Association congratulating him for a job well done. And certainly, many kudos go out to him, and we hope he continues on the path that he's doing, and he's really good job on his part, and it's great to recognize one of our youngsters here in Ellenville receiving an award. That is all I have. Any other board member? John?
Yes, Chief, I'd just like to let everybody know that remind everybody our Hall of Fame induction ceremony is October 15th on the football field at 11 a.m. We have 4 inductees this year. Regina Steele, 2012 graduate. A.J. Borriello, 2010. The 1981 varsity football team, which was undefeated and ranked in the state. Unfortunately, they didn't have state playoffs back then, so they didn't get to progress, but that team was one of the greatest teams we've ever had. And then, of course, Jack Sovak, who was a longtime coach and health teacher in our district, are being inducted in. Today, we put in the 3rd of our 4 plaques, which are recognizing these folks and their efforts. We'll finish that tomorrow. The sign's been ordered. The AV and group is doing our program and our music for the day, and I'd just like to invite everybody to come out and see that ceremony. Immediately or close to following the ceremony, there'll be a varsity football game, followed by a girls' soccer game, and then a boys' soccer game later in the evening. So it's going to be a really great day, and I'd just like to invite everybody to come out and see how we're doing here. This is our 4th annual. We didn't do it because of COVID, in the COVID year, but it's really a great event for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. I'd also like to just thank you and your committee for the work that you continue to do in recognizing our past athletes and staff members and teams that have gone above and beyond. And it's very important to the community to have that. It brings everybody together and shows the importance of athletics as well.
And Mr. President, also a reminder to the public that we don't pick these folks. They're nominated by people in the community, and then we review them and come to finalists, so to speak, that gets in. But anybody can nominate somebody. You have to give us some information to go on, and we take those nominations pretty much all year.
Thank you. And I know Jack Sovak, I was glad to see he's being honored. He, not only on the athletic field, but in the community, he brought the DARE program here. He helped bring the DARE program here. I spent many weeks with him, with the program, and actually spent with him and Lance Lewin up and being trained in the DARE parent program with him and the high school program. So he's done a lot of different things, and I was glad to see that he's being recognized. He's sorely missed. Iris?
I just have a quick question. Is the information about the Hall of Fame nominations available on the school website?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Vince is verifying that right now.
Yeah,
It's on the website.
Great, thank you.
It is definitely on the website. Anybody else for this evening? Move on to our student representative.
First off, I would like to say thank you for having me here. It's a great honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to a great year with all of you here. We're going to begin with the senior class. They finished their MUMS fundraiser. They will be delivered both today and tomorrow. Also, they will be accepting deposits for the senior trip. So any senior that needs to get the deposits in, please do so ASAP. A couple fundraisers have been off the books. The 2027 class with their syrup fundraiser, and then the class of 2026 finished their honey fundraiser. Pickup days to come. Also, the senior high school band and chorus are selling coffee and popcorn for their band trip later in the year, which is going on until October 3rd. Also, the Alzheimer's Walk will be coming up in the next month. I believe the day is October 15th. The walk over the Hudson, it'll be a great day. I'm looking forward to it. And then the varsity football, despite losing 16-14 at Tri-Valley, it was It was really honorable to see that we honored the first responders at the varsity football game on Friday. And thank you to all the responders that do what they do to keep our community safe and etc. And then, most importantly, like Mr. Burns, with the Hall of Fame induction, most events are listed on the school website. So any events that are interesting to a lot of parents, you can go on the school website to check those out.
Thank you, Jack. We look forward to many more reports from you during the year. All right, we'll move on. As you have seen, our superintendent is not here this evening. She is feeling under the weather. So, yes, she's human. She does feel under the weather at times, and we wish her a speedy recovery. We will now have Assistant Superintendent for Business, Vince Napoli.
Thank you. There are two topics that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. The first one is that the New York State Real Property passed the legislation laws so that municipalities can extend or increase the senior exemption. For that would be anyone who's a senior citizen who makes up to a certain amount of money. In the past, it's been $29,000, gets a discount on their taxes. And that's allowable now up to $50,000. In order for that to take effect, the school board would need to pass a resolution. So at some point, if we want to consider that, we'd have to pass a resolution to set that amount for future taxes, as well as every year we do a bus count analysis. And this year was no different than last year. Prior years, we were at about 750 students riding a bus on any given day. For the past 2 years, it's been in the 550s. And that kind of goes in light to our decreasing enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Iris?
Just have one question for you, Vince. The senior exemptions, aside from the fact that it seems very complicated reading that information, how do seniors get informed of that, of the availability of that? Is that the school's responsibility, or who informs people that this is?
I can check with the assessor and get back to you. I don't know how somebody gets notified of that. That's a really good question. I will find out. I will contact the assessor, and in my next board report, I'll let you know what they tell me.
Thank you. John?
Vince, good question. It would seem that going from 750 to approximately 550 and students on the bus, that would be a big savings, but do we still have runs that require to put kids on buses even if the bus isn't full? Is there a savings to the district with the runs? How is that working?
Yes. So since 2 years ago, and then last year with our transportation consultant, along with Vicky over at Rolling V, we were able to actually cut 2 runs, which gave us a significant savings of, like, depending whether there's an aide on the bus or not, right? So $60,000+ per run. There becomes a point where, due to our geography, it makes it really difficult to cut the number of buses. Reverend Collins knows that he used to be a bus driver, that sometimes we can't make the changes that we would like to have, the savings that we would like to see. And one of the things that's been brought up in the past, and we're going to take another look at it, we'll have a study done, is can we go to 1-tier bus run? Off the cuff, you would think, well, we would save money. We'd have the same number of buses, let's say 19, transporting all of our students coming in at one time, but it doesn't work that way. We've got some routes that right now we send a 20-passenger van on that might be full, but a big bus can't fit there. So now if we run 1-tier, we're going to have to send 2 buses into that area, or there are some roads that can't handle a big bus, like Wintis Road going up 52. Big bus can't go up that road, so no matter how many students are on that road, we have to send a 20-passenger van. So while we think intuitively that, well, if we can bring everybody on the same run, it's going to save us money, that's not always the case.
Okay.
But we are saving money over the last couple of years due to the reduction of students riding the buses.
I appreciate that. One other question, following up on what Iris said about how seniors are notified. I'm also reading here, since I qualify as a senior, it says M is currently $20,500, more than M but less than M plus 1,000 equals 45% of the exemption. I don't know if I have the grit to understand that. Will the district or somebody provide help with the seniors if they want to know if they qualify and where they qualify at that? Or are they on that for their own? Because I agree with Iris, this is a pretty lengthy read with a lot of technical terms in it.
That's a great question. You have to remember, at the district, we don't set that. The rates, that's set by the assessor. The equalization rate is set by the state. Our job here is to set the school tax levy and to collect the taxes.
But you said the board would have to pass a motion.
The board would pass a resolution, and if a taxpayer needed assistance as to how they qualify or where they qualify, if they're curious, rather than just send in the application
Right.
with all the supporting documentation, their tax returns, I do this for my mom, for her senior exemption, all those questions get directed to the assessor's office, to the town,
Okay,
not to the school.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I think because it is, it's not as simplistic for older, our older generation, our senior citizens to see these formulas like that, and it could take some time, and they may just disregard it because they don't want to be bothered with it. I know that firsthand. And what I would like to see is us as a district put out maybe something on our website that says frequently asked questions, make it simplistic for our senior citizen population to have a rather simplistic answer, and let it be under, where they can go to online help and support for frequently asked questions. I think that we should do that.
I can certainly reach out to the director up at Sullivan County and ask them, or at Ulster County, the letter that I put in there happened to be sent from Sullivan County, to see if we can't put together something that's an easy read
Yes.
for our community.
Thank you. Jody?
Another option is maybe we can have a night where we can have both Ulster and Sullivan, since we are part of both of the districts, come here and assist seniors in filling out the application, or even doing a little presentation on what it means.
I can certainly try to arrange that.
Thank you. There's nothing else. We'll move on to our acting superintendent. Kelly?
Good evening. I just want to report out that the junior senior high school counseling staff is working on organizing a college fair here at the school on October 25th. And to date, we have 20 colleges confirmed, both 2- and 4-year schools. And more details will be forthcoming, and we'll make sure the event is well promoted. But we're excited to be able to offer that experience to the students.
Thank you. We will move on to our...
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Iris.
Kelly, in reading through your report, and I was reading about Structured Tutoring Academy, which would be an AIS.
Yeah.
Could you give, what is that going to be about? Is that going to be after school? How is that going to work?
So in addition to AIS services offered during the school day, so that's typically Tier 1 interventions is what happens in the classroom, so just regular differentiation. We have our support that happens outside of the classroom with the reading teachers. What was mentioned here with the Tutoring Academy, this would be before and or after school.
So it would be additional services that we're offering that, or, different than what we're already offering, basically.
It would just be an additional offering under our umbrella of AIS Extended Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We have a couple different AIS programs running currently, that there's actually a couple resolutions tonight to approve those, but this is just an additional AIS offering.
I really appreciated, too, the explanation of the boundaries, how students are selected for this program and stuff, so good.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
excited to organize that and coordinate it. A couple more details to flesh out, but we're hoping in the next, hopefully by the, mid to October, we're ready to target students and notify parents about that.
Not a minute too soon, I'm sure. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Move on to personnel resolutions for this evening. Under 6.1, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be resolved that the following substitute personnel be appointed to the 22-23 school year.
Motion to move the list.
Second.
This has been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved that Jill Furman be appointed as long-term substitute teacher at a contractual rate of $75,385, prorated step 1, bachelor's, 90 plus master's, effective September 29, 2022.
Second.
Moved, seconded. Discussion? John?
Just a quick question. So this will be prorated for the year, but if we get somebody, or would that still be prorated on a daily basis to that point? Or is this done deal for the year?
No, the teacher will be returning
Okay,
for the second semester.
so it's just how many days she works. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.3, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, be resolved, the Board appoint Piper Tickner as a mentor for Aaron DeSarme at an annual stipend of $1,000 prorated, effective October 1st.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.4, resolved that the Board of Education hereby amends the February 8, 2022 resolution set forth as agenda item 5.5 under personnel to reflect the start date from February 9, 2022 to February 10, 2022. Be it further resolved that the appointment of James Sherry, security attendant, be made permanent following successful probationary period effective October 10, 2022.
Second.
A move, seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.5, resolved that the Board of Education hereby amends the August 23, 2022 resolution set forth as agenda item 6.16 under personnel to reflect the date for the 6-month probationary period for Jamie Frederick from March 31st, 2023 to February 28, 2023.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. Resignation. Upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, be resolved that the resignation of Richard Jacobs, security attendant, be accepted effective September 2nd, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Move, seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.7, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, be resolved that the co-curricular personnel set forth in the attached list be approved at a contractual rate for the 2022-23 school year.
Move the list.
List has been moved. Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.8, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, be resolved that the following elementary school extended day personnel set forth on the attached list be approved at the rate of $44 per hour worked 22-23 school year.
Move the list.
It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. 6.9, be it resolved that Kathleen Burns be appointed as the substitute soccer coach for Matthew Dom for the period of September 27, 2022 through no later than October 11, 2022, with the exception of the following practice game dates: September 29th, September 30th, and October 3rd.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? One, Mr. Burns, and no further. Motion carries. Move on to budget resolutions for this evening. Do I have a motion for 7.1 and 7.2?
Motion to move 7.1 and 7.2.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. Education resolutions for this evening.
Motion to move 8.1 and 8.2.
8.1, 8.2 moved and do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one. Motion carries. Under number 9, construction award. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Been moved in its entirety. It's been seconded. Discussion? John?
So the question I had before, Vince, was, and I asked when the architects were here last time, you know, we pass a budget vote, we get the referendum passed for building, and then it just seems like it's 3, 4, or 5 years before we get the work done. The acceptance or denial of contracts, does that slow down even more than where we are now?
Just a little bit, and let me explain why. The two that were rejected, the general construction, we were hoping to break ground this fall. with the hopes of getting the footings and the foundation in only for the new cafeteria. So with only that delay happening, and that will now happen in the spring, the sooner the better, depending on the weather, really doesn't push our expected completion date any further out. The other 4 awards that we got, that we're awarding tonight, were so that we could actually start procuring the items. So is there a delay? It's minimal.
Well, I know a few years ago, we went through great lengths to come up with a tremendous safety plan for our entrance ways and all of that. When's that going to happen?
That's not impacted at all. This is what's being delayed right here minimally, like I said, is phase 1. So once phase 1 is done, then we'll be moving on to the other phases. And the next part of it would be there's a whole bunch of it, and I don't remember all the components of the next phase, but part of it is the security entrances. And don't forget, we've got our athletic fields. So due to the delay with state education not approving our plans, everything has been moved out 1 year. So normally we would have been done by 2024. Now we're looking at 2025. And that's the site work, but that has nothing to do with what you're approving tonight.
I get that, but so we're waiting through 2024, 2025 to get that work done on the items that it had to be 2-3 years ago that was approved.
Correct.
So what can I asked the architect that, and he said nothing, but what can we do to try and move state ed along? You know, we're in the end of the county here. Almost every other school is making improvements, improving their fields, and we wait and wait. I mean, I think our kids deserve this stuff too. Is there anything we can do?
We are already beyond state ed. We have all the approvals from state education at this point that we need. The projects have been approved. Project numbers have been assigned. Now it's the matter of the phasing and the staging. So if you remember what Scott talked about, we can certainly, and Louis also, they talked about doing some of the site work, the parking lots. But you don't want to do the parking lots before you have all this heavy equipment coming into the buildings, because then you'll just destroy a brand new parking lot, because there is going to be a lot of big equipment coming in here to pour the concrete. You've got the pumper trucks, you've got the cement mixers coming in, you've got earth movers coming in. Those pieces of equipment are going to be a lot of heavy lifting for our parking lots to handle. Same thing with our entrances. It's not like you're coming in with a box truck full of 2x4s. There's going to be a lot of weight and a lot of wear and tear in our parking lot.
I get all that, Vince. It's just frustrating that we're waiting so long.
I do not disagree with you, Mr. Burns. We were hoping to be done sooner rather than later, and it has pushed us out a year. We all feel your frustration.
So just to clarify, because I was on a conference call with the construction people, you and Lisa, when I was in the Dominican Republic, and I was told that there would be no delay, that our timeline was going to be complete on time.
That is correct.
That was guaranteed to me by the architect.
That is correct.
By the construction people. So we're still on time, and
We are
we're going to be
still-
completed as I was told.
We are still on target to turn over the cafeteria to our food service management company in the 23-24 school year.
Thank you. But I share John's frustration, because we want to see these projects get done. Obviously, they have to get done, you know, in the phase end, but we want to make sure that we limit, if not eliminate, all further delays on this project.
Agreed, 100%.
Thank you. Other resolutions for this evening? Oh, wait, we got to go to vote.
10-1.
Yeah. No, we got to go. We voted on the project, right? It was first and second. Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. We'll move on to 10-1. Other resolutions? Resolved that the Board of Education, Ellenville Central School District, approve the Educational Learning Experience Agreement with the ARC Greater Hudson Valley for students. Number 26603. Been moved.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion. All
I
those in
just
favor?
have a question. Kelly, where is this place? I don't think I've ever seen it on our lists.
I can look for you.
Is it a new placement?
I think so. I know I've heard this.
Oh, you have, because I don't remember it.
Monticello.
It's in Monticello, okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Under 10.2 bid award, be resolved the bid for the 2001 430 Steiner Max tractor in the amount of $2,650 has been moved.
Second.
Seconded, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Our next meeting, mark your calendars, October 11th, 2022. Anything that any board member wants to see on that agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Move, seconded, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.